Hello, Facebook FMCA family. Happy Thursday to everybody. We are proud to start a new series here at FMCA where we want to focus on highlighting a member benefit here on Facebook Live, allow our members to come in, view the Q&A, ask questions, and get a better understanding of the benefits that make FMCA the best RV club in the world. So this is our first and hopefully not last. So Courtney, let's not mess this up too bad here. But I'm going to keep doing this over and over. So our first guest is Courtney Woogie from FMCA RV Insurance. So Courtney, do you want to kind of introduce yourself and your role in this partnership?
Yeah, you bet. Well, thanks, Chris, and thanks for the staff for arranging this. It's always fun to get on something live and break up. I do insurance all day long, so this helps break some of the day up and have some fun. So like Chris said, my name is Courtney Woogie, and I grew up in Iowa here in Forest City, where my main office is at. And I left here and went to school, undergrad school at Luther College in Decorah. Was a software engineering role at a defense contractor for many years called Rockwell Collins. Was able to get my MBA at the University of Iowa. Go Hawkeyes! Thought I'd get that in there. And from there went and got into the medical industry in medical sales. And about 2010, my father, who is the founder of this agency, was diagnosed with colon cancer. So he had to make some decisions on the business and twisted my arm and twisted my wife's arm and everybody in my family to convince me to come up and purchase the agency. And that happened in 2012. So I guess that's a little bit about me. I've got 4 kids and Shannon, my wife, and an RVer myself. So I've seen many of you at the rallies and many of the black FMCA eggs on the back of rigs as I'm traveling around. So it's a fun club.
Yeah, and we'll talk about kind of the agency itself, because I think it's a pretty interesting story, kind of the vision your father had and kind of where it went from just an idea to what you guys are today. I think that's an interesting story we'll talk more about. I guess for those of you who don't know, I'm Chris Smith. I'm the CEO here at FMCA. I'm in sunny and cold Cincinnati today. The winter's starting to creep in. I'm sure it is there in Iowa as well, Courtney.
It is. It's a sunny cold. That's a good description.
Yep. All right, so I guess we'll get into the questions here. I guess my first question's kind of what I hinted we would talk about is, what's the history of FCIS? What does that stand for? Kind of how to get started? Where are you at today?
You bet. So in 1978, my father formed what is now FCIS Insurance. It stands for Farm and City Insurance Services. But much like FMCA went through with Family Motor Coach Association, in the marketplace, sometimes it can be easier just to list 4 letters for brand recognition. So 1978, it was formed. 1981 is where we got our roots in the RV industry with a small manufacturer here in Forest City, Iowa called Winnebago Industries. And the founders and leaders of Winnebago really came to my dad as a local insurance expert because they had a problem with when their customer, the ultimate customer of an RV, had a claim and it wasn't covered properly, and the RVs were depreciating at a faster rate than their bank notes were being paid off at. So in a total loss environment, go back to 1980, if it was depreciated more than you owed on it, you would have a total loss, your RV would be gone, and you would still owe money to the bank. So wasn't such a good deal for the consumer. So what he did was helped develop what is now known in the marketplace as total loss replacement. And that was developed with Foremost Insurance back in 1981 with the blessing of Winnebago to help market the product for their customers, which then fast forward through the 80s and 90s spawned into other manufacturers and other clubs. And really, the manufacturers allowed us to market through their own owners clubs. So, for example, the WIT Club that is a chapter of FMCA or affiliated with FMCA as well. So that came to when my dad got diagnosed with colon cancer, 2010, and my acquisition of the agency and my continuation with growing that book of business and also entertaining new programs like FMCA RV Insurance.
Yeah, and you've kind of been recently kind of expanding your footprint, FCIS, at least throughout the country, right? I mean, you've kind of tried to acquire different places throughout the country, and you're expanding and growing.
Yeah, the specialized RV insurance world is quite small. So, I'm one that likes to grow. So we made an acquisition 3 years ago of the Tobin Agency out in New Jersey, and with the FMCA RV insurance program, we have another specialist that will help us and essentially be a sub-producer of the program, and that is High Stage Marketing out in California.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a small but mighty niche that some of us get to play in, and candidly, we're all friends. So our people ask our competition if it's the other RV insurance specialists, and it's not. It's really, for us, it's educating the consumer and competing against misinformation out there.
Mm-hmm.
That it is possible to get total loss replacement. It is possible to get an agreed value policy. It is just a much different policy type than you can get at some of the captive markets. So. And if I can share the story quick on how total loss replacement was developed. It's actually a good story. It was a fishing story when my dad was trying to convince the underwriter at Foremost of how many years to place into this total loss replacement phase. My father wanted 5 years of a brand new coach because he thought that could sell better to the consumer and was better for the consumer. Of course, the underwriters being who they are, they wanted to limit their risk, and they said, we've got to have only 3 years, and then it would go to purchase price guarantee. Well, they solved it with a fishing trip in Canada because they were at an impasse and this thing wasn't going to get off the ground. So they went to a lodge in Canada, and they were fishing in a boat, building a good relationship to start this RV product. And my dad just simply said, let's make a deal. If we're in the boat, if you catch the first fish, I'll concede and we'll go 3 years and we'll price it accordingly. And underwriter said, that's fine. If you catch the first fish, then I'll concede and we'll price it. Well, the rest is history. You can guess which line took off the first and who caught the first fish. So the 5 years is the first on a brand new coach, you'd get purchase price guarantee or total loss replacement.
Yeah, we need to go back to those days of business that way, make
Absolutely.
decisions. Fishing, maybe we'll do some free throw contest or something in town.
Absolutely. Some of that's gone away with technology and speed to market, but in the insurance business, there still is in gray areas where there are sticky situations. There are still phone calls and relationships that can be developed. Case in point, us to FMCA. I mean, we've built a great relationship with the FMCA leaders and the members and the staff. And my entire staff knows the club very well, and that stuff matters. And it's important for the member to know that we strive very well to have the consumer's best interest at heart.
Yeah. Just going back a little bit in history, the partnership between FMCA and you, as far as forming this FMCA RV Insurance Alliance, it predates me. I've been here for a little over 8 years, so we've been doing this for a while. Maybe can you talk on kind of how the idea came about and what happened to get the partnership done?
Absolutely. And this is a great story too. And I love sharing it because I was all set to go to St. Louis with my wife to go to a Michael Bublé concert. And she was saying, you have to come with, it's going to be a nice family outing. I just did not want to go to the Michael Bublé concert. So I was trying to come up with any excuse possible. And lo and behold, FMCA had a rally in Sedalia, Missouri. And I grew up going to RV rallies, just going with my dad and serving ice cream. And that was our niche. That was, I bought in the business, and I'm like, I've got to work. She's like, well, you're not going to be in the office. You're going to come with me. I'm like, okay, well, for the concert, I'm going to go to Sedalia, Missouri, and I'm going to hang out with some of the FMCA folks. Well, it was during that trip when I went over to Sedalia, I learned that there was some concern amongst the members and the leadership at FMCA with the current provider they were using for FMCA RV insurance. It was a one carrier model, and they weren't even licensed in all the states, and it just wasn't working. So I took away from that day, went to St. Louis, made my wife happy that night. We were with our friends. I came home and I set out to create, I guess for lack of a better term, a better model to serve what FMCA was looking for. And that was, more choices, some better options, and an organization that supports the members. So with really those three pillars, I put it together, ask friends in my industry if they wanted to partner with me. Therein lies the FMCA Coalition and the other agencies that we put together, and simply came to Cincinnati and was asked to present to the executive board what my ideas were to create a better program. And I love sharing this story too. I got halfway through my presentation and was told to leave. I don't know if any members of the executive board at that time remember that, but I'm going through the slides and kind of sharing how we can put this together, and was told, basically they'd heard enough, and could you step outside? And I'm thinking, okay, no problem. And I get outside and I'm kind of packing my bags, ready to get on my flight home. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll probably never hear from these guys again. And sure enough, they said, come back in here, Woogie. We got something to share with you. And they said, we like what we hear, and we want to start this program immediately because we're really in a tough spot here with what we're doing on RV insurance. And I said, great. And then they threw me out again, and because they had other business to attend to, as those of you that have been part of those meetings, it's not just one thing. So from there, I was very excited to put it on, and where the proof is in the pudding is really continuing to develop those relationships and customers over time, and just showing that we don't just want new business. We want to continue to service everybody's policy that we have.
That is a good story. I know when they kick me out of the board meetings, it's usually not good. So I'm glad you had a different experience than I did. No.
Yeah, I mean, I'll never forget it. And I always enjoy coming to Cincinnati. As you know, Chris, Cincinnati is always in the middle of my trip whenever I go to my New Jersey office. If I'm going to Florida, if I'm going to see my son in Washington, D.C. area, I always love staying at that campground, and always enjoy seeing that area.
Yeah.
So
I wanted to talk a little more, Courtney, about kind of the alliance itself. I kind of hear questions sometimes of members who say, well, why can't I get a quote from X carrier? I live in Ohio. Why is, this particular carrier not quoting me here? Do you want to kind of explain the alliance and kind of why it's beneficial to the member to have different carriers throughout the country?
Yes, and what I forgot to mention back to the formation of our agency, we are an independent agency serving the I guess the independent agency model. So there are three ways a customer can buy a policy today, right? You said one of them. Direct marketplace is there. You can go to progressive.com, you can go to stateauto.com, or any of the online and buy a policy direct, right? The other option is go through what I call a captive agent, right? Many people have State Farm policies, American Family policies, great companies. Those agents only service one particular carrier. And then there's the model or the segment that we serve is what's called an independent insurance agent. So we're free to choose our carriers and free to choose the niches and the products that we serve. So really what this FMCA RV Insurance Coalition is under our leadership, FMCA, we have other agencies in other parts of the country that will help sell and service these insurance policies to the customer. And then the carriers we represent on the RV side of things, there are 5 of them. So to your question on the state, in Ohio, for a particular risk or particular zip code, there may only be 2 or 3 choices. The good news is there's 2 or 3. There's not 0 choices, which is what was experiencing before. Not all states had an option to cover proper RV insurance. So it's really 2 things to the multiple carriers. So it gives you multiple choices. And then on the backside with our service center, we have multiple agents around the country to help service that member. So, I mean, without getting in too much of the weeds on how it works, just at a high level, it's an independent agency that has multiple carriers and multiple independent agents behind us.
Kind of leads to my next question is for clarification, because I think some people get a little confused of what to expect if they call FMCA RV Insurance. Maybe kind of briefly explain what's the difference between an agent and a carrier.
We get that question quite frequently. And an agent, the best way I can describe it is agents are advocates for the consumer. I'm not disparaging anybody from going direct and buying a policy direct with the carrier, but the underwriter and carriers direct, in my professional opinion, are not an advocate for the consumer. So us as an agent, we're supposed to have, most agents should have the customer's best interest at heart and place the business that is best for the consumer. If you call a carrier directly, they only have that one option, and it's more of a take it or leave it type of mentality. And also we as an agent, we're not the ones to cut the claim checks. We will act on your behalf to place your business with the appropriate carrier, but in a claim environment, an adjuster will be assigned from the carrier, and they're the ones to actually cut the check to make you whole. Now, as an advocate for the consumer, we can always get involved to try and help things out. But I guess it's more of a concierge service. It would be an agent, and the carrier would be, the big company that controls the checkbook, so to speak.
Yeah, and without going into detail, I can kind of vouch for the advocate role that you guys play. Recently we had a member who had a claim that they were having trouble getting paid out, and it was a pretty substantial amount, and you stepped in and kind of helped navigate them through the process, and they end up getting paid in full. So I can vouch for the advocate position, because you buy direct, you're kind of on your own, right? You have an agent, you have someone you can call and
that understands.
Yep.
And as strange as this may sound to people, insurance carriers don't like to pay claims. They're contractually obligated to pay claims. That I can assure you. When we place business with a carrier, we do our best to try and queue up the best contract. However, in any claim environment, there is always some gray. It never seems to be cut and dry. Most of the claims go fine. And the carriers we represent are all A-rated, and we go through and do a review with them every year. But sometimes when it gets sticky, I have to make a phone call. Some of my managers have to make a phone call and explain to the carrier, what FMCA is, their membership base, and if you want to try and play games, this may not go well in the long run.
Yeah.
So it does work. Good questions.
Yeah. So we're kind of talking about RV insurance, but I know there's some other coverages our members can obtain from you guys. What are some of those different coverages?
So RV specific coverages. I think this question is twofold: is RV coverages, but then maybe what other products we carry. right?
Yep.
We are not just a one-trick pony in RV insurance, although that's our expertise. So on the RV insurance policy side, I always talk about settlement value. Settlement value is always important to people. There are three different, and if you go to one of my seminars or one of our seminars at one of the rallies, you've heard this before, but this is how we became a specialist. Settlement value number one, total loss replacement. If you buy a brand new coach, please, 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 if you take anything away from this little chat, purchase total loss replacement. It doesn't cost very much more. It is a little more for a rate, but total loss replacement. The next thing is agreed value. Based on the value of your coach today, and when you buy a policy, you can lock in that value. That's something only a specialist can do as well. So for those of you that just buy a used one from the dealership or just want to lock in your values of today, that can be done. And last but not least is what is on most auto insurance policies, and what most people think of on their insurance is a settlement value called ACV, or actual cash value. And that gets decided at time of loss what the value of your unit is, or the depreciated value of what it is. But running through very quickly for you full-timers out there, again, full-timers liability is a broad-based coverage to cover you. For example, I'm a golfer. If you're a full-timer and you're golfing and your ball happens to hit a house like mine typically do, right? Full-timers liability provides that broad-based coverage, more like a homeowner's coverage does. Going down the list, campsite liability is another big one on a RV insurance specialized policy. When your jacks are down and your slides are out and you're camping, that becomes your home. So your liability in and around your campsite is extremely important, that you can't buy with an auto policy, because I don't know many people that sleep in their car. It has happened. Some people some spouses throw their husbands out of their house and have to sleep in their vehicle. Not that it's happened to me, but those are kind of the big three. There's a lot of other smaller ones that we don't need to go into today, but members can certainly always call us and we can walk them through that. But the other part of your question was, other than RV policies, I think what you're asking is, do you cover other assets that people have?
Correct.
And we not only do we specialize in RV insurance, but we also anything RV related. So we get more into the personal lines industry of everybody's car, golf cart, truck if you're pulling a fifth wheel, or towable, homes. So that can get, depending on the state or the zip code, we have less options. But we do have options. So I would encourage you guys, if you like your RV policy and you like us, give us a shot on some of your other assets in the household. We are getting more into commercial insurance now as well, because a lot of FMCA members have businesses. It's becoming more frequent where, there are some side businesses and some businesses that FMCA members get involved in. So we would also encourage you, again, we don't have a ton of options, but we are starting to get some of our national carriers have a great commercial lines product depending on your business. Good. So we're multi-line. I like to say we're a multi-line insurance specialist that just specializes in the RV industry.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure members were aware that it is more than RV insurance. Obviously, that's the focus, but you guys do provide other policies and coverages as well.
Yep. I own an RV. I also have a home. I have a golf cart, and I have a few other things that, if you can believe this, our agency is my insurance agent as well.
That's surprising. That's surprising.
Right.
So this next question, I think some of them are obvious, but I think there are some factors that people may not be aware of. What are some of the main factors that determine your insurance rate? Now, again, some of them are obvious. My wife drives 100 miles an hour, so that hasn't helped our insurance rate. Stuff like that goes into play on the premium, but I'm sure there's some other things as far as frequency of how often you drive, how far you drive. kind of stuff like that people may not be aware of that does affect their premium.
Yeah, this is where I always tell people technology can be your friend or your enemy. And you go back 30 years ago, the rates were probably just based off of your driving record and your year, make, and model of your vehicle. Well, nowadays there are upwards of 50 different rating factors that carriers will run analytics on. The biggest one you just said is usage, right? There are in the RV sector, right? The full-timer to have full-timers liability is going to pay a higher rate, but they don't have homeowners insurance. So if you use your rig and sleep in your rig more than 150 nights, you, by the RV insurance companies, are classified as a full-timer. But there are full-timers that still have sticks and bricks and full-timers that are 365ers. So those rates can be broken down into those two pieces.
Yep.
Then there's a 30 to 150 day, which that's what I fall in. I'll stay in my RV probably between 30 and 40 nights in a calendar year. So my rig is rated at between 30 and 150 days. And then there's your weekend warrior, I call it, your less than 30 days usage. But some of the easier ones, as you pointed out, driving record. I wrote some of these down here. You've got your driving record, your value of your vehicle, claims history, right? If your wife's driving 100 and actually has an accident, an unfortunate accident, and you have a claim payout, those things can affect it. Garaging zip code also has a big important play, because the rate in rural Iowa is less than the urban rate in downtown Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So the carriers have gotten real smart on kind of parsing the rate up, which is why a lot of people ask, look, I'm the same age as my neighbor. We have the same RV. We live next to each other. Why is his insurance or my insurance $100 higher than his? Well, it could be something as simple as he has a safe driving discount or an FMCA discount, and you do not have that discount on your policy. So rates are getting extremely sophisticated, and that's really the carrier's secret sauce in their intellectual property, that they share with me how they come up with a rating model, but they're never going to send me spreadsheets of how they break everything down.
Yeah. One of the things that I've never been able to verify if it's true or not. I mean, do things like credit score come into play?
Depending on the state. So if for those of you in California, they did pass a law where you cannot rate based on credit score. So that does two things. That for the people that have a good credit score, they no longer get a discount. For the people that have a bad credit score, they're not going to be rated adversely for that. But in a lot of other states, I call it an insurance score, and the industry calls it an insurance score, which is really the top two, or the top three: your credit score, your driving history, and your claims record. So credit, absolutely, depending on the state, will play a factor. And really what the carriers look at is your ability to pay. Are you, right? If you're late on a whole bunch of payments, logic is going to say you're going to be late on your insurance payment as well.
Yep.
So
that makes sense. I was wondering if that was the reason. So
yep.
Yeah.
And they also look at carriers share data with LexisNexis, and they also get data from that. So if you have canceled for non-payment with one carrier, another carrier may be able to see that, and that can go into their rating factor. So I always like to say, just try to be as good a person as you can in life. Try to drive safe, join FMCA, get yourself educated, and try to stay on top of your bills and manage your life like a good person.
Those are good. So, that's good advice just in general, Courtney. Not even
I mean, I think I was a counselor in a previous life. I didn't have many clients, but they would meet with me once and get some advice, and then I'd never see them again. It was weird.
I call you at least once a month for
right.
Cool. So
yep. We all need some therapy once in a while.
Maybe that can be your second line of business there at some
Right.
point.
Yep.
All right, so let's say a member is looking to canvass the market. Maybe you try to find someone new to provide their RV insurance. How can a member go about getting a quote from you guys?
Yeah, so everybody knows that there's insurance providers and agents everywhere, and I would encourage you. I mean, thank goodness we live in a free market here in the United States, and you can buy from anywhere. For us, yeah, it's the two simple things: call or click. We try to make it as easy as possible. A lot of FMCA members love to call us, and thank goodness we're not all digital right now. And like my 16-year-old kids, that when I call them, they'll hit the reject button and then send me a text and say, "What's up? What do you need?" So we still have phones in our office, thank goodness. So that number I think is somebody can drop down below, but it's 877-589-3599. It's a toll-free number, and you'll get routed to one of the three offices that exist for the program, which is Collingswood, New Jersey, Forest City, Iowa, or Escondido, California. So we kind of cover the span of the United States that way. And the second option for you folks that just want to engage digitally is a website, FMCA RV Insurance.com. We try to make that as simple as possible.
Awesome. One of the other ways they can talk directly to you is you guys are big supporters of our 2 international conventions per year. You guys are set up in our preferred partner area, and people can also fill out a quick little card to get a quote, ask you any questions they might have, and they can win a little cash too, right? If they
That's been what we've done. Yeah. It's worked out great. We love coming to the rallies. As I've said, I've been going to them since a kid, and we do a drawing, and we've done daily drawings just to get people, give away some cash every day, and that will get you into a drawing. But more importantly, you'll get an email with the quote, and there's no obligation to buy, but let us prove to you that we can be a good source for your RV insurance.
Yeah, and something else you guys I didn't have on my list, but something else you guys do at our conventions as well is you do seminars, kind of like what we're doing now, where you kind of touch on the high points and what people need to know, and you do a couple of those, right? 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, we try to do as many as we can. Those rallies can be quite busy, and there's lots of other vendors and lots of other things to share. But we've done at least 2. We try to do as many as we can to hit different times. The other thing we do is try to, we sponsor, but we also try to get involved in your guys' safe driving course, because what that leads to is. What everybody likes is a discount on your insurance. And we can talk about that now, Chris, if you want.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
So, the reason why we sponsor the safe driving course is because it makes sense. Safer drivers have less claims, helps our carriers out, and members would get, depending on the state and the carrier, a 3 to 5% discount for safe driving. On top of that, for being an FMCA member, one of the reasons why we like RV clubs and the history of our agency has been RV clubs is because of education. So we have convinced the carriers, and they have seen it in the numbers. If you are an FMCA member, logic says you want information on your RV. Logic also says you're going to get educated and drive safer and be a better person. So there's also a 3 to 5% discount for being an FMCA member. Now, here's what tends to happen. If you have reached the pinnacle in life, hopefully like Chris and I have, as you're a very, very good human, and you have maxed out your discounts, typically, depending on the carrier, it can be between 20 and 25% of the total premium in all of your discounts. You're not going to get your policy for free. You can't stack up, all these 3 to 5% discounts, and pretty soon you're getting 100% off. So what tends to happen is if you've got a safe driving course, you're a club member, you've got good credit depending on your state, good driving record, haven't had any major claims or any at-fault accidents, you may have already maxed out your discounts, and that's a good thing. So if you call and say, I'm an FMCA member, please add my discount to my current policy, and I'll go through you. If that premium doesn't change, that is a good thing that you have reached the maximum number of discounts you can get on an insurance policy. So there is some great benefit, and I like to say, depending on your premium, just your insurance discount can pay for your membership. I've seen cases where, you've got a very nice coach, and, yes, premiums tend to be a little higher with higher value coaches, and therefore your FMCA club discount can also be higher. I mean, it can be upwards of $50 to $100. Don't quote me on that, because some are lower, but it can help for sure.
Okay. I know there's no perfect answer, but how often do you recommend people go out to the market to get an insurance quote? I would imagine it's probably similar to many things in life, where what's a factor this year may not be as weighted next year as far as premiums. So kind of how often do you recommend?
Yeah. So me personally, I'm an insurance agent, right? I don't want to be the dentist with crooked teeth and, the eye doctor that can't see. Me personally, I'll go out every 3 years. That's the model that I've always lived by. You want to give, if everything's fine with your particular carrier, and, you haven't had any major reasons to leave them, and they haven't taken substantially rate, I would stay with where you're at for 3 years. That's what I've always kind of recommended to people. If everything stays the same. Now, there's a lot of people that like to shop it every year. I don't necessarily recommend that unless you've had a major change. Certainly, if you've had a bad experience, or certainly if they're giving you a 20% rate increase, that would be cause for that. But if everything is give or take the same, 3 years is always the rule of thumb. I've always told people.
Okay.
So what do you do, Chris, for your for the Smith household?
Insurance is not that sexy to me. So honestly, I probably don't do it as often as I should. God, I know for our last house, we had our insurance bundle, the auto and house bundled for 9 years. And I don't know if we ever really went to market. And the only reason we changed recently is because we bought a new house. So
yeah,
I'm guilty of not doing my due diligence. I'll admit that.
That would be a great seminar question for the crowd, or a poll question online, which I'm hoping Jackie Richardson, who is my marketing manager, is listening in. I think maybe that's a great. How often do people look at and go to market on their insurance policies?
Yeah, I think a lot of people aren't as excited as you are. They probably more in my camp, where they,
Right.
If they're paying a premium, they're okay with it and everything's fine. I'm sure a lot of people are not going off that often to market.
Yeah, it's like your cell phone bill. If you've got no reason to change from, AT&T to Verizon or vice versa, and if everything's working well for you and you have not seen many major increases, there's no reason to.
Yeah.
But I would suggest that insurance, if you've got the time and effort and interested, 3 years is kind of that area where I recommend.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, do you have anything else you want to touch on, Courtney, before we kind of take any questions that might be out there?
I didn't have. I think you covered everything on my list. I just wanted to say I'm excited to go to Tucson. I'm making my plans to bring my coach there, and of course Lincoln next year is in my backyard. Even though there's a lot of Cornhusker fans there, I'll make sure and leave my Hawkeye gear at home. But I love those rallies because it's just a time to see people in the flesh. But I also know that people's schedules and not every member of FMCA goes to those events, even though we try our best to get people there. Encourage you that I'm available if you run into a situation and you need my help. I'm there to help, but I also have a staff of, I think there's 28 of us now. So if you feel like you need to chat with me, just be patient. I may not be available immediately, but we do have a ton of very, very good licensed and trained RV insurance specialists, and I think you'll find that they are very good to work with and very, very fun to talk to. So,
Okay.
and I appreciate the partnership. It's worked very, very well. I always look for these win-win-win cases, and I firmly believe that we have a great model here that we've built.
Yeah, I think the proofs in how many people are on the program and the amount of quotes you guys get, I think speaks to that. Let's check and see if there's any questions. All right, so here's the first one. Hello, can Courtney discuss RV glass windshield coverage and how it differs from cars, and is it different by state?
Great question. So one of the most common claims is glass on an RV, right? It makes sense. The whole half of the front and the sides is all glass. So does it differ from cars? Yes, because we're on a motor. If you're talking a motorhome glass, it actually requires two people to either lift up or do something with that glass. So it's a little more labor intensive, and it's a little more challenging to find an OEM glass part. And that, if I can share numbers, right? We all know the auto industry ships a lot more many cars than the RV industry does. What's the number, Chris? Is like 14 million cars to what, 500,000 RVs that are shipped. Mm-hmm. So just by that law, I mean, there are many more glass manufacturers that will pump out glass for a Toyota Camry or a Chevy Cruze versus a Newmar or a Tiffin. So the coverage from a claim standpoint is much different, and depending on the state, some states have require the policy to be a $0 deductible. So again, without going into state specifics and specifics, the agent can walk through that with you on the phone. So Stephen, I hope that answers your question. Glass claims are very common. We deal with those on a daily basis, and I would just say be patient. Right now with COVID, the supply chain, as everybody knows, is all goofed up, and it just may take a little longer to get that glass sourced and the labor to do it.
Well, just to add on to that, we're kind of your one-stop shop here. So we do have a windshield replacement partner that will actually kind of take your claim. We'll work with the carrier to get that glass replaced, and you also get a year added on to your membership if you take advantage of that. So
that is a great point, and yeah. I forget the gentleman's name that I always see at the rally.
Matt Eater with Custom Glass.
Matt, yes. Yep. Shout out to Matt. They do a great job, and in fact, he's always asking me, which carriers are doing well, and can I have their claims contact? And thanks for that. I don't hear any issues on that side of things, so that tells me that's a good program.
Yeah, it has been. Well, let's see. Do we have any other questions? Looks like we've covered pretty much everything else that's been asked so far. Anything else to add, Courtney?
No, thanks, Chris, and the staff for putting this together. I'm hoping we didn't screw things up too bad. Maybe I'll get after you get through the other partners, have me back on, and we'll try to clear up anything that we can clear up.
Yeah, I did want to mention something, Courtney. This has nothing to do with insurance. But I went to bat for you, buddy. We had this talk about, for those of you who don't know, RVIA gives awards. 40 under 40 is what they call it. All right. It's the 40 top leaders in the RV industry. Well, I was lucky enough to squeeze one out right before I hit 40. I went to bat, Woogie. I'd asked them if they can make it 50 under 50, and they wouldn't budge. So,
well, there's always, maybe I can get 60 under 60.
There you go.
There's, I think I actually heard this from an FMCA member, but somebody that, age is it's just a number, right? And what is the joke I heard? I'm trying to remember it. Somebody is only older when they're 10 years older than where you're at this moment, right? So if you're 70, you're not old until you hit 80.
Yep.
If you're 40, you're not really old until you hit 50. So, age is somebody older they have to be 10 years older than you until they're old. So
hey, whatever you got to tell yourself to get by.
Right.
That's right. I just want to let you know I tried.
Yeah.
That really bothers you that I've
well,
got the board sitting on my desk and I don't see
I was excited for you. All I have is, pictures of stuff my daughter makes, and I'm just a humble insurance agent. I don't win any awards, but it is what it is.
That's a good way to put it, buddy. All right. Well, thanks, Courtney. We really appreciate it. A reminder to our members that we plan on doing this once a month. Hang tight. We'll announce who the next guest is. But again, thanks for taking your time, Courtney. I think it was very helpful, informative, and we appreciate it.
Yep. Have some fun.
All right. We'll talk to you guys next month. Thanks for joining.